Okay, we're on Unit 1, Module 4, which covers health and safety. If you've already covered this in any other recent training, it's up to you if you want to skip through it or if you want to refresh your memory. But we'll go through it anyway. Every year, thousands of people have time off work due to sustained injuries that could have been avoided, and health and safety procedures are there to keep everyone safe. The Health and Safety at Work Act covers employees, it should say employees anyway, it says employers twice, the self-employed, subcontractors, suppliers, people who control premises, and visitors and customers on the site. Breaches of legislation can be dealt with by the Health and Safety Executive or the local environmental health practitioner from your local council. Breaches can result in improvement notices, prohibition notices, and criminal proceedings. Other negative consequences of breaches are loss of productivity for the business disruption, staff shortages, possible long-term effects on employees. A duty of care is a moral or legal obligation to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of others. Ourselves and others, isn't it? We're responsible for ourselves and other people. Employers must carry out risk assessments, do what they can to remove or reduce risks, provide safety equipment, ensure safe working practices, provide relevant instruction and training, and provide suitable personal protective clothing or equipment. Employees and the self-employed must take reasonable care of their own health and safety, not do anything unsafe, follow your organisation's health and safety policy, obey all safety instructions, use protective equipment correctly, and follow the site's emergency procedures. Risks and hazards. So a hazard is something with the potential to cause harm, and a risk is the likelihood of harm occurring. And a risk assessment is the identification of hazards, the calculation of risk, and the reduction of that risk either completely or to an acceptable level. You can never always remove all risks, okay? Good health and safety practices are all about reducing hazards and risks. Typical risks and hazards in the workplace include slips, trips and falls, injuries from poor manual handling, misuse or abuse of machinery, sharp objects like needles and knives, diseases, hazardous chemicals, global or critical incidents, noise pollution, moving vehicles, locked or blocked fire exits, obstructions, poor lighting, and overcrowding. Minimizing the risk. So once a hazard or risk has been identified, follow the hierarchy of control to work out the best way to deal with the potential problem. Ask the questions. Can the hazard be eliminated? Can the hazard be substituted with reduced risk? Can the hazard be isolated or enclosed? Would the introduction of a safe system of work reduce the risk? For example, new procedures and routines? Would information, training and supervision reduce the risk, or would PPE? There are 5 steps to carry out a risk assessment. Step 1, identify the hazard. Step 2, identify who may be harmed and how. Step 3, evaluate the risk and introduce further controls. Step 4, record the findings and implement them. Step 5, review and revise and update if necessary. So that's going to be your policies and procedures. What items of personal protective equipment or PPE might a security operative carry? So if you look on the left, that's going to be your generic PPE or personal protective equipment that most places of work should provide, especially warehousing. And on the right hand side, you might get a question in your test paper where it refers to personal safety PPE. that's more related to your role as security staff. So you might be issued with a metal detector, so you're not touching sharp objects. A body camera, that could deter some people from behaving aggressively towards you. Your radios, because you need to radio for help if you need backup, don't you? Okay, and torches and personal alarms and equipment control, infection control, sorry. Okay, manual handling is the movement or support of any load by physical effort, including lifting, moving, carrying, pushing, and pulling. If you lift or move heavy objects without using the recognised procedures, you run the risk of sustaining the following injuries: fractures, spinal disc injuries, trapped nerves, friction burns, damage to muscles. Before attempting to lift a load, use light to evaluate the risk. So L is for load. Look at the load. If it's too heavy, can it be lightened or split? If it's unstable, can handles be fitted or the load be reapportioned? And I, individual, consider the capability of the person. Are they strong or fit enough? Are they adequately trained for the task? T is for task. Evaluate the job to be done. Does the task involve stretching, twisting, or bending? Can machinery be used, or can a team handling be used? And E for environment. Control the environment where the task takes place. Is the floor slippery or uneven? Can the layout or the floor condition be improved? The 6 safe lifting techniques are: 1. Stop and think. 2. Position the feet. 3. Bend the knees. 4. Get a firm grip, keeping the back slightly flexed. 5. Raised with the legs. And it's 6 actually. They put it in twice by mistake. Another mistake they've made there, right? 6 is keep the load close to the body. It's showing a 7 on there, just ignore that. Security operatives who work alone can be particularly susceptible to violence, injury, ill health, a lack of support or communication, and a lack of welfare facilities for rest. So you might get a question on this about working on your own, lone working, and they're your possible answers that's going to come up in your multiple choice test. So if you want to make a note of them, just pause it and make a note of if you need to. Okay, safety signs and signals. Safety signs and signals are used to communicate health and safety instructions, must be kept clean, must be displayed where they can be easily seen. Prohibition signs mean that you are prohibited from doing something. So if you see that sign, see the one with the cigarette in and the one with the mobile phone in, you normally see them at petrol stations, don't you? But the first picture there, if you see that sign and it's got a picture of a dog in, what do you think that might mean? No dogs. I get a lot of people in our classrooms saying that, no dogs, which it's a bit of a trick question because you need to think about the Equality Act, don't you? So if someone's blind, it's going to mean no gods, getting my words mixed up, no dogs except guide dogs, okay? So be careful, don't rush into your answers. Make sure you read all the 4 possible multiple choice answers. Don't just go with no dogs if that question comes up. It's going to be no dogs except guide dogs. And mandatory signs mean that you must do something. So they're normally in blue. In warehousing, they normally tell you to wear your safety goggles and your hard hat and your safety boots. But as I say, it's mandatory. You'll see them on fire doors, keep them shut, or telling people to stay out, keep out. Safe condition signs indicate where to go for safety. So it could be a fire exit or telling you where your first aid boxes are. And your warning signs to indicate a specific danger are normally yellow. Slippery wet surface, you see them in workplaces where they put the yellow cones out, don't you? And on electrical cupboards, danger, high voltage. And fire safety signs indicate firefighting equipment for your fire extinguisher or your fire blankets in the kitchen areas. And there's some of your hazardous substances signs related to dangerous chemicals. You do see some of these signs on the back of wagons, tankers. They're normally coloured in orange, aren't they, some of them that you see? But looking at them, without me going through all of them, I'm pretty sure you'd be mindful or wary that they are signs of potential dangers. Okay. Okay, so incidents and accidents must be properly reported to meet legal requirements, help to identify accident trends, improve practices and procedures, help prevent similar incidents, assist with insurance claims and investigations. So your incident or accident report needs to include at least the following information: the day, date and time of incident, the location of the incident, how you were alerted to it, what you saw and what you were told, what happened and what action you took, whether first aid was required, whether the emergency services were called, what was the result, details of any injuries or witnesses, any descriptions of the property or people involved. And RIDOR is the reporting of injuries, diseases and dangerous occurrences regulations. The employer or designated responsible person is required by law to notify their local authority, the health and safety executive, or of incidents at the contact centre. This can now be done online. Okay, back on Data Protection Act 2018 or GDPR covers any information related to a person or data subject that could be used to directly or indirectly identify them. It can be anything from a name, a photo, and an email, address to bank details, social media posts, biometric data, and medical information. And personal information can be kept safe by following all your organisation's procedures, follow your assignment instructions, maintain confidentiality of information, using social media in a responsible way. This includes having the highest levels of security settings on your accounts, not wearing anything identifiable outside the workplace, demonstrating personal vigilance, for example, not completing surveys, not discussing work issues outside the workplace, and not discussing work information with, it says colleagues, but really it's family, friends. You wouldn't discuss anything related to your job outside the workplace. Okay, if you need to go back, it's up to you, but you need to make notes on these questions that are likely to come up in your assessment paper on your final day and also on your online training. Identify the responsibilities of employees and employers under the Health and Safety at Work Act. So you're going to make a note on both sides once you've identified them. Identify 4 risks associated with lone working. So if you're working on your own, what are some of the risks? And state the procedures that should be followed for recording and reporting accidents and health and safety incidents in each of those boxes.